So recently, I had an opportunity to talk to the in-house ergonomic expert over at Kensington. Her name is Lisa Schuiteboer-Shuler, and it was a great opportunity for me to get all of my ergonomic questions answered. Because recently I upgraded my home studio with a lot of Kensington products, but one thing I didn't do was put it together with ergonomics in mind. Here's my interview with Lisa Schuiteboer-Shuler from Kensington. People working from home, I'm sure you've been really busy hearing from people that are having injuries. What's the most common one? Is it posture? Is it the wrists? Like, I'm very curious to know.
I don't think it's necessarily that it's an injury. It's just more so I'm in pain and I'm tired of my job working in this way all day long. And usually it's when people are working on their laptop all day long without any external sources like keyboards, mice, laptop risers, those types of things. And then from that really stems a lot of the other issues like carpal tunnel or just overall body fatigue, neck pain, shoulder pain. The list can go on, but most of them do stem from crunching over or hunching over into a position where they don't have the appropriate equipment attached to their laptop.
You make a great point because as great as a laptop is for to be able to work anywhere, typically it is usually lower than it should be. Everything should be kind of within your eye level. And if you're working hours on end on that laptop, you're just prone to having a really bad posture. And over time, like you notice people, they have this kind of hunch look to them. Like they're kind of, because they spent so many time or so many hours in that position.
There's a term that floats around a lot. It's not officially a medical diagnosis or anything like that, but it's called turtling. And so if you think
Certainly.
about how your posture changes over the years of working on a laptop or on a mobile device all the time, your back starts to get that hump right at the top of your neck. And you start turtling into all of your devices. So not something I want to ever be diagnosed with in my lifetime, but it's very possible for most people if they don't find a solution.
So what kind of solutions do you guys have a laptop yes, you do have a laptop riser, and I know so that you have
Many.
these and you also have these clamps, so if someone has a second monitor, you know, again, they don't really realize just how the positioning. Even, I learned this the other day. I was watching this podcast from a neuroscientist, and he says one way if you get tired, you want to elevate it so your head's just slightly tilted up because it's going to keep your awareness more. And whereas most people, they're still always pointing down when they're looking at screens, even a second screen, it's not elevated to that ideal location.
So you bring up a great point. A fun fact, which people always like to learn about, is if you think of your spine like a broom handle, so a very small, around, long pole with a bowling ball stuck on the top, which would be like our head. That's how much we have to balance throughout the day. So anytime you are starting to look downward, it's just that continuous weight that pulls you forward. Whereas when you do lift up your head just slightly, it does help balance that ball or our head on the top of that handle. So it's super useful to have that good posture that's there, but it's also hard to maintain that all day long without taking breaks and having that consistent adjustability with our equipment.
The one thing that I've noticed is usually people start to think about this after they've got injured or are experiencing some type of pain or discomfort. When it comes to like setting up a home office, they don't think about this in the design portion of it. It's more like, ow, I need to fix this. I'm hurting.
I mean, I think from a consumer perspective, they're usually the ones that would have an issue and then want to do something about it. Now, a lot of corporations are starting to think about putting it into the design phase, especially with the pandemic setting in. So it's getting there, but nowhere near where it actually needs to be. And you're exactly right. It's usually not until someone has felt something, then they look for the solution. And then when they find that that was successful or really did aid them in comfort, then they want to know more. And then they come back and look for that full setup solution.
Now that I think of it, I'm kind of surprised employers aren't being more proactive about this and ensuring that their employees have these perfect kind of setups. Because even if you're working from home or at the office, nobody actually looks at it and says, "Hey, I was thinking, you're here, we could improve this for you." And like it that doesn't take much. And just think about that as an employee. You're like, wow, you guys actually care. Like, you notice that I'm kind of hunched over. Like that. What a great way to show that you care about your employees by making the investment in these accessories to ensure that they're kind of have an optimal workstation.
I mean, studies have shown that, boosting the morale of employees is certainly a way to keep them employed there versus looking for another job. And things as simple as just providing simple equipment at the workstation doesn't have to be the top of the line, most expensive thing out there. Kensington's been really good at providing affordable solutions for either work from home or in the office. And it can go miles, for someone to actually be able to have that setup available to them and show exactly what you said, to care about their employee well-being, to basically get them into the office and out in the same condition every single day.
In terms of like the height to like where you're typing, do you guys have any kind of recommendations on that? Like that people could kind of assess when they look at their current setup?
So I always like to try to describe things for someone that's in elementary school because not everyone has the ability to take in all the scientific knowledge when they're already working and have 100 other things. So I think of my arm like a bridge. And if since I'm on video with you, I can show you. But if you have your arm straight to the desktop like a bridge, even going slightly downward, that's going to be the best position for you to be typing at on your desktop. What you'll find though is that a lot of people's desks at the office or at home are actually too high. And so then you're going to start getting a little upward motion there. Anytime you get that upward motion, you're applying contact stress or contact pressure to your wrist or carpal tunnel area. And that's where that fatigue is going to set in really quickly. So you would want to combat that with either lowering your desk if you have that ability with a electronic sit stand type desk, or you can install a keyboard drawer that would allow you to have that below the surface as well.
So they say sitting is the new smoking. Where do you fall as an ergonomic expert on the debate of sitting or standing at work? What kind of angle do you think it should be?
So the next movement is the best movement you can have. It's not wrong for people to sit all day at work. It's not wrong for people to stand all day at work, but they have to be taking breaks no matter what position they're in to keep moving their body. And the ideal is 2 to 3 times an hour of moving around just a little bit. It can be small movements. Even going from sitting to standing is a nice reset, but there is a rule called the 20-20-20 rule. So every 20 minutes, you should look away from your computer about 20 meters or 20 feet away for 20 seconds. And that's a really nice quick reset for your body. It doesn't have to be a 20-minute coffee break, but it can be just a short reset for your body to go to the next position.
I guess the best system then would be a sitting standing desk, something that's modular where you can kind of move it up and down. Those are I've built those before, and it's a little bit trickier because when you have cables and you have monitors, you have to make sure you have enough slack, and then you can kind of raise it and then drop it. But I do agree with you. I admire people that stand all day. I think it's if you had to do one, that's the one, but not everybody can do that. You're going to get fatigued, but it really is to have the best of the both worlds. In terms of you guys have so many products. What is the one product from an ergonomic standpoint that you would recommend, like hands down to family and friends? Like this is the must have.
And that is such a hard question because we have
I
so
know.
many, and it really depends on who the person is. I will tell you the trackball, the Orbit trackball that we have was what brought me to Kensington. I was recommending that as an ergonomic consultant all day long to people because it was such a great trackball for left or right-handed users. But I will say the most popular choice now is probably a laptop riser that is foldable. It's easy to take on the go, but you have to pair that with our compact keyboard and mouse so that you can have that full setup. You cannot use a laptop riser without a
Yeah.
keyboard and mouse. You're going to do more harm than good at that point.
That's the trifecta right there.
That
Because like you
is.
said, it like you still have the portability of a laptop, but those accessories that you put in your laptop bag, you can set up a nice shop, right? Workstation virtually anywhere and you're not going to fatigue yourself. In terms of the trackball, I'm just it's been years since I tried one. Is there any kind of learning curve or like you have to kind of reset to migrate for that? Because I know a lot of people have like carpal tunnel syndrome and wrist pains from just using a mouse all day long. What is that? What is that transition moving to a trackball?
For most ergonomic equipment, typically it's a 2-week window to give it a fair shot. And at the end of that 2-week window, people will either love it or hate it. There's usually no in between. When I would tell people to switch to the trackball, because it is a very different way of mousing throughout the day, I would recommend to have both the traditional mouse or whatever you were previously using and the trackball plugged in and start in large motion tasks. So if you're checking your email or surfing the web, use the new mouse that you're not as comfortable with and then increase that to try to doing a 50-50 split and then transitioning over to the trackball by the end of the 2 weeks. Otherwise, you're going to want to throw some of the products out the window because it's different. And so you have to give them a fair shot. Other people, when they're in pain, they will take anything they can get, try it, and totally forget the old method. But if you're trying to transition, do it slow and like I said, give it about 2 weeks.
As an ergonomic expert, have you ever seen someone try to switch hit? Like now move, say, from like the right hand to the left hand with the mouse?
Yeah, I mean, I've encountered a lot of people that can do both. And so for me personally, I'm left-handed. I had never moused with a left-hand mouse until I went into ergonomics, and I can only mouse with my left hand on a trackball. But I can
Really?
right hand all day long on a traditional or vertical mouse. So it really is doable for people. It's just a different way for your brain to register how that mouse works.
So not only did you switch hands, you switched to a trackball on your left hand. So you did like that must have been weird at first.
Yeah, that's like knocking a volleyball with a baseball bat at that point. You're trying to combine sports, I think. But
Well, that's interesting because I'm left-handed as well, but I've always used a mouse right-handed because, as you know, being a lefty, we live in a right-hand world, and so
we do.
when you go to a computer class, everything is already set up for you to use with your right hand. So I guess I had assimilated that way. I had never thought about switch hitting. With
And
you make me
you would
think I
probably you do okay. I mean, the trackball, because you're using your finger, so thinking how you would write and you're very comfortable with that left side already, you would probably do wonderful with a trackball just because you're using that finger motion, keeping your shoulder stable. And you could still try both at the same time
feel
just
I
to see
feel
which way you end up.
I feel like I have to test this out. I can't believe that you did that. Like that's a challenge now to me. It's like, wow, like, this powerful hand of mine that I've used for everything else. And because of, the environment, I switched to this. And then it's like to bring it back. Like, wow,
Try it for sure.
I think I
Orbit with
will.
scroll ring, hands down. Easiest one to switch to.
Okay, I think I will try that. Is it really the mouse hand that the most people have the issues with, or is it from the typing, like the improper way of their keyboard?
And it's again, it's a mixed bag. I think that most people can attribute it to the mouse because they're gripping it throughout the day. Whereas the typing, depending on the movement that they have, there's a little bit more movement there. But then if they're resting their wrist on the desktop or something like that, that causes it. But then the thing that no one talks about, it seems like, is the mobile usage combined with all of our mousing and
Yeah.
keyboarding is just adding on to that. So a great solution to combat a lot of that is a vertical type mouse because you are switching the orientation and you're not having that same swiping motion that you have when you're on your phone or your tablet as well.
So essentially, what I'm hearing is if you do have any kind of wrist pain because of the mouse, there are a lot of different types of solutions and alternatives. So you could still work, like if that's your job where you need to be on a computer, that you can make those switches. And I think that's a really important message because a lot of people probably aren't aware that there are these alternative vertical mouses solutions out there for people who have those kind of injuries or ailments.
I mean, there's so many different solutions that we offer, to try to switch hands. That was probably one of the number one recommendations I would make. People would fight you on it all day long because it is different. It is a challenge to do that, but you try it, and then when you realize you can distribute some of that dominant hand movement to the other hand that you're maybe not as comfortable using, you suddenly have learned to multitask, and you can do so much more with your job too.
Yeah, absolutely. Think of the neural development of just being able to like, it's like switch hitting in baseball, right? You're like, oh, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
go this way. I think it's good for the brain, the plasticity to be able to keep those neural movements going. My last question, I was thinking about this when I knew I was going to talk to you. Are you seeing younger and younger people come up with kind of injuries at the desk?
Unfortunately, it is happening younger and younger. We're seeing a great increase of people going to a back specialist or a chiropractor or something like that for backpack weight, but then also in the hand and the wrist because basically all of the younger generation at this point has grown up with mobile devices from day one and they want to carry them wherever. And I know even in my daughter's school, they're an iPad school, so they're swiping all day long from kindergarten on. And that's certainly a trend across many, many schools. So I anticipate until the schools can get on board with ergonomics and having alternative solutions available, it will become a larger issue.
Absolutely, and it's not just at the desk, it's the way that people are with mobile devices that have their head down for extended period times and they're swiping. And you're right, the head, it's actually very, very heavy. People don't realize how heavy our heads are and the weight of pushing it down, the strain that it puts to your whole back and down your spine. We need to become as a society when we have a phone that we're kind of looking at up higher rather than down. It's like we have to relearn. And I worry about this generation, the eye babies who grew up with these digital devices. What is going to happen to them when they're entering like, 25, 30, and they have had a couple of years sitting at a desk? It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a very good, I guess, case study about ergonomics moving forward.
I mean, I think we're just going to have to keep coming up with alternative solutions from Kensington to adapt to some of the newer issues at a younger age. But we are seeing, younger generations being interested in the different blogs that we offer around trending topics too, that they want to research, they want to do something for their health. And so that is something that Kensington does try to do is offer that research in an easy to digest way for people that want to learn.
I love that. I love one that you provide that information, and two that young people are seeking that information, so they're being very proactive. Knowing they're probably feeling some type of ailment or because they use technology way more than older people. So it would be come to no surprise that they're probably noticing that their posture or whatnot needs to be improved, and it's refreshing to see that they're actually looking for that content and you guys are providing that. That's because like Kensington's such an old brand. You wonder if the young people are familiar with it. Myself, going through school, of course I knew about it. So it's great that you do have those resources for the young people.
For sure. We're going to keep chugging along on that journey to try to get the younger generation educated. And we're always looking to see what those trending topics are to try to write about them. Because we know if, someone younger is searching for them, we want to be that resource that they can go to and get the help that they need.
Absolutely, be a thought leader and then direct them to the different solutions that you have in your product portfolio. If people are watching this and they want to get more information, Lisa, where should they go?
Kensington.com is our hub, and you can go to resources for the blogs or check out all of our solutions as well.
Excellent. Well, I'm loving your product portfolio. I look forward to reviewing more and maybe including in my buying guide for the holidays because what better gift to show that you care and love someone than to give them something to like improve their ergonomic postures, right? Like if that doesn't say I love you, what does?
It's the gift of well-being, and I look forward to hearing how you do on that challenge at the left-handed trackball too.
Yes, yes. Okay, I will get that. I will get that because the fact that you made that switch, it is a challenge now that I want to try out to see if you can teach an old dog new tricks. But we're gonna find out.
Well, I appreciate the time today. It's been great talking to you.